Time to rock and roll!
Hello my friends. My name is Bot Mathematician and this is Holomancer.
Also, Chief Investigative Reporter Dora joined us this evening.
gXxgAaDlQayngYAAA always gets the scoop.
The big balance patch brought a lot of important changes to the matter across all formats. It looks like the developers managed to solve the main problems.
Today we will discuss the consequences of nerfs and buffs, and also share with you a list of the best decks that will help you effectively climb the ladder.
To determine the best options to play this time, I collected data mainly from Donkey.top and hsreplay.net. Win rates are taken in the interval between Diamond and Legendary ranks.
In this review, we decided to completely ignore the twist format, since we are not sure that it deserves the attention of players. I spent September mostly in the new format, and my impression was that buffs and new cards had almost completely destroyed what was potentially the best ways to play Hearthstone. In October I want to focus on other modes.
For this reason, if you think we should continue to follow twist, please let us know in the comments. Now let's get to the review. The balance changes have had a positive effect on the Death Knight. Plague strategy became dominant within the class and its effectiveness slightly increased. The strategy has become one of the most popular in Standard. Also, at high ranks, players actively use another unholy archetype with an undead core.
The Hearthstone team removed the Frost Rune from 2 tools of Plague strategy, which finally allowed this synergy into the unholy archetype. Thus, the developers recognized the non-viability of the strategy in the absence of 3 rune cards. The efficiency of this build is almost 55%, but this result is based on less than 1,000 matches. The deck did not integrate cards from the mini-sets.
Unlike Death Knight, the balance changes did not affect Demon Hunter in any way. It's still the worst class in the game. The Relic archetype remains the best of the worst. We talked about this deck in our previous review.
Druid continues to feel great. The class has a large number of effective strategies. Drum, Trent, and even big archetypes are competitive. But at high ranks, after the patch, another deck dominated. After banning Tony King of Piracy in the Wild format, the card decided to conquer Standard. The mini-set brought some very useful tools to the deck that allowed this strategy to get out of hand. Fortunately, the developers decided to fix this and a few days ago temporarily banned Tony's best friend, the Jailer, until the next balance patch. Thus, Trent Druid became the best option again. This is the most effective and popular version of the deck at high ranks. In addition, this is the most budget option on our list. Of the expensive cards, you only need 4 epic ones. Unfortunately, the card did not adapt the new tools from the mini-set. In Wild, as we expected, the return of the Quest archetype is coming. Currently, this is the most effective and popular strategy at high ranks. Here is a new version of the build that has been modified by the new wWYgAapngasngYAAA. This card behaves like a virus, aggressively infiltrating most old strategies.
Before we continue, please write the answer to one question in the comments. How many Caverns of Time packs have you opened so far? This expansion was positioned by the developers as exclusive to the Wild, but in fact it turned out to be partially useful only for the twist format. Moreover, we see no signs indicating a significant increase in Hearthstone's profits in September. With your help, we will try to shed light on the effectiveness of this monetization method. Thank you. It's time to talk about the new king of the metagame. The change in the cost of Star's Trungbow did not prevent the hunter from maintaining the status of the most effective class. Low variability is its only drawback. Arcane's dominance continues. This is currently one of the best builds at high ranks. The balance changes gave the Mage a chance for rebirth. The class has a lot of variety but not all strategies are quite competitive. The mech archetype has a popularity rate below 0.5% but shows the highest efficiency. Despite this, at high ranks players ignore this archetype, preferring to use the rainbow strategy exclusively. This is the most popular build that managed to adapt 3 new cards from the mini-set including Old God. After the nerf, we began to see Prison Breaker more often in the game.
By changing the effect of wWYgAapngasngYAAA, the effectiveness of the secret strategy in the Wild format was reduced. Quest Mage has finally transformed into the Highlander archetype, and is the best option to play. 11 legendary cards make the deck very expensive.
The balance changes have improved things for the Paladin. The effectiveness of all archetypes has increased at all ranks. But the best strategy is still aggro. This deck is based on the Silverhand synergy, which has been absorbed by pure strategy. The deck is currently showing some of the most impressive efficiency at high ranks. The archetype also did not adapt cards from the mini-set. In Wild, after the patch release we were unable to find enough popular Paladin decks at high ranks. The ban of Mechwarper completely eliminated the Mech archetype. But we managed to find an unusual experimental odd Paladin deck with a silver hand core. The effectiveness of the deck can't be called quite representative due to its low popularity, but we tested this build and it's really good. Paladin has the strongest improved hero power that allows you to keep a presence on the board throughout the match. The highlight of the deck is wWYgAapngasngYAAA Unleashed. In this deck, he plays the role of the last hope.
Priest's efficiency has also increased a bit. The Automaton archetype has increased its win rate in the middle of the ladder, but at high ranks the deck is barely represented. The two main leaders are still Control and Undead. But Undead still shows more stable efficiency. After the release of the mini-set, players experimented with Soulburner Varia in experimental builds, but now the new card has become an integral part of the strategy. In Wild, Priest does not have a specific favorite deck. After the Shadow Essence nerf, the big archetype disappeared from competitive play. At high ranks, Shadow Priest has the best performance. The deck's playstyle is very similar to the standard version. An important advantage of the deck is the use of the new ship's Churujin card from the Caverns of Time expansion. This is rather an exception to the rule for the format.
Rogue also has only 3 strategies to choose from: Mech, Miracle and Concoction. The Mech strategy took a hit after the Coppertail Snoop nerf, but is still effective in the most popular strategy within the class. At high ranks, players prefer to use the Concoction strategy. The deck is imbued with the spirit of randomness and unpredictability, and thus leads to multiple generations of tons of value. This is becoming the next big problem.
In Wild, the combination of these two mechanics resulted in the birth of a completely broken variation of the Miracle archetype. wWYgAapngasngYAAA has a big impact on the metagame but more in a negative way. In some matchups, the deck gives too much advantage, leaving your opponent with no way to counter it. At first it seemed like fun, since the variations of the decks gave new impressions. In fact, these archetypes are the only significant changes that the mini-set brought. But now the imbalance of wWYgAapngasngYAAA within the Rogue is obvious. The Shaman's only competitive option remains the Totem archetype, which hasn't changed since the mini-set release. The deck is too effective at high ranks, but most likely it is not on the developer's radar due to its relatively low popularity. In Wild, the Shaman took the most damage. The nerf to Spirit of the Frog led to the disappearance of the questline archetype. In addition, the Shutterwalk archetype, which used the Murloc core, also suffered from balance changes. Subsequently, the Totem archetype became the best strategy. The main tools of this deck are cards that reduce their own cost. This is a trend in the current competitive environment in both formats. Decks are actively abusing this mechanic, and the introduction of wWYgAapngasngYAAA has further exacerbated the situation. You may have noticed that almost all decks on our list contain at least one tool with cost reduction mechanics. In our opinion, such cards are steadily leading to problems. We talked about this in detail in one of our videos.
A minor nerf to one of the components of Symphony of Sins spells led to a serious reduction in Warlock's effectiveness in standard format. With almost 40% probability, you could discover the movement of Pride effect and almost always draw Thaddeus or Sargeras at a reduced cost, which could lead to an automatic win. I'm surprised it took the developers so long to fix this interaction. After the balance changes, at high ranks, Thaddeus is the most effective and popular Warlock strategy. Despite this, at low ranks and in the middle of the ladder players prefer to use the Control archetype. In Wild, Discard strategy took significant damage after the balance patch. Despite this, the archetype remains the most popular at high ranks. The win rate has dropped significantly, but the deck is still very effective. But I prefer to use the new expanded version of Quest Line strategy. It doesn't have as high a win rate at high ranks, but it is stable enough to move up.
And finally, a few words about Warrior. After the nerf of Craftsman's Hammer, Armor archetype lost its impressive efficiency, but despite this, the deck is still the main way to play. At the same time, the win rate of Enrage strategy has increased significantly over the past few days. The deck is not popular, but is slowly starting to increase its presence in high ranks. This build has not undergone any major changes since the release of the mini set. Balance changes have caused the class to almost completely disappear from the Wild format. Players have not been able to find an alternative to Odin strategy at the moment.
Let's move on to the conclusions. The balance changes had a positive effect on the competition environment. The gap between leaders and outsiders in the metagame has narrowed. Hunter is still too strong but a little less broken. Armor Warrior remains competitive, but has become more balanced. Warlock's delicate nerf deprived him of a broken combination. The situation for Death Knight has improved very slightly. Separately, it is worth noting the attempt to solve the problem with Tony Druid. The Jailer's temporary ban wasn't the most elegant implementation, but it was a very important step to normalize the meta.
The balance changes had a huge impact on competitive play in the wild format. Secret Mage, Big Priest, and most importantly Discard Warlock became less powerful. Even Odin Warrior, Shudderwock Shaman, Frog Shaman, Mech Paladin and Tony Druid have completely disappeared from the metagame. All of this brought variety to the game.
Also, the balance changes adjusted the twist, but the new season with the new rules did not create a radically different metagame. Players use the same archetypes with minor changes, and the competitive game has not evolved.
Unfortunately, the impact of the mini-set has not increased after the nerfs and buffs. wWYgAapngasngYAAA is incredibly popular and is the only reason to buy Fall of Ulduar. The Old God is part of broken interactions that allow you to generate a ton of value for free. The card has a rather negative effect, especially on wild format. At the same time, the impact of the balance patch turned out to be colossal.
On top of the lack of impact of the mini-set, we are seeing a decrease in player engagement. I'd like to believe that this is the last mini-set.
As usual, we are eager to hear your opinion on the impact of balance changes on the metagame.
What brought more positive changes? The new mini-set or nerfs along with buffs and bans?
Share your thoughts in the comments and join the polls in the community tab.
Finally, we want to express our boundless gratitude to our sponsors. Dear friends, your support is invaluable. Many thanks to each of you.
We also want to welcome new subscribers to our Mathematician Squad. We only see nicknames of public users who have not hidden the subscription section on their channel, but we are grateful to everyone for joining.
Okay, that's all for today. Thank you for spending this time with us. We really hope that we will have the opportunity to get in touch in the next video.
Take care of yourself.
And never give up.
Job's done.